Welcome to TQ Training. Today we're looking at Spreadsheet Tutorial 4 Functions Part 2 of 3. In this session we're going to look at adding single and multiple cells, minus and multiplication, division and average, which is also known as mean, and we're going to do a quick recap on formatting as we go along. Here's a spreadsheet for a hotel. It contains some guest billing information. The first thing we need to do very quickly is do a recap on formatting to make this actually user friendly. We're going to do things done before, like merge and center, and pop a bit of color in it, and change our font style, and change our font size, and we're going to make sure that everything fits. So we're going to look at our headings here. We can't read them all, but if we highlight them all, right click, format our cells. Under the alignment tab we're going to wrap the text to make it fit, click on OK, and you can now see it's just reshaped it, so we can now actually read what these are. This one still doesn't quite work, so let's manually drag that a bit bigger, and there we go. So we can now see we've got room number, duration in nights, cost per night, and so on. We've got a little code underneath. Accommodation total, this one here, is the duration times by the cost per night. So we need to do a sum in there. And we also need to figure out some of these totals. Another problem we have here is cost per night 45. This needs to be pounds. So let's click that whole column, format the cells. Under the number tab, we're going to currency in pounds. This is stuff we've done in previous sessions. So this is just a very quick recap. And these are pounds, these are pounds, these are pounds, and that will be as well. So let's format all of those into currency, pounds, two decimal places. Great, done. There we go. Make it easy for me to read, and hopefully for you to read too. Let's pop some lines in there. Let's put some borders in. Great, here we go. So the first thing we need to do is have a look at this accommodation total. We know that room 142 had a duration of 4 nights, £45 per night. So that's going to be duration 4 times by 45. So in here, nice easy sum. We click in the box and we put equals. And we want to do this cell, so we click that cell. And then we need to do multiply, which is press and hold down shift and press the 8 key. That gives you an asterisk. And we want to multiply it by that cell, so we click that one. So we've got B4 times by C4, press your enter key, and there we've got £180. Rather cleverly, it's figured out our pound settings, so we don't have to format this cell. We'll have a look at this one. If we now move over to there, click, hold and drag, because that was quite a simple formula of one cell times by another cell, the spreadsheet's figured out what we wanted to do. So on this one it's B5 times by C5, B5, C5. Click on this one, B6 times by C6. So it's cleverly figured out what we wanted, so very quickly we filled it in. It's always worthwhile whenever you're dragging down like that just to have a quick random check. We know that 1 times 45 is 45, so great, we know it's right. We now need to look at this part here. So we now know that room 142, their total accommodation cost us £180. They didn't pay for a Wi-Fi, pass, food or beverages. We've got a miscellaneous, but we don't have a membership discount, so we're going to have a total. And our total is going to be that cell plus that cell. So we click where we want, we press equals, and we then click that cell, then the plus sign, which is shift and equals to get your plus. We click on that cell, press enter, and there we've got £181.50. Those two cells added up. Now we've got this one. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4 cells to add up here, and there are two ways we can do it. So click in the box, we click on equals, and let's do it the way we did previously. We click on that, and then plus, and then we want to add that one, and plus, and this one, and plus, and this one, and equals, and we've got £311.50, which are all of those added together. Bit of a long-winded way of adding it with all those pluses and clicking on cells, but we're going to have a look at a different way of doing additional of multiple cells. But let's stick with the basics for now. We've got a more complicated one here. We've got the accommodation cost, the Wi-Fi pass, we've got food and beverages, no miscellaneous, but we have a membership discount, so we need to take that away from our total. So click in the box that we want, and then we've got equals, and we need to do a bracket. I'll explain why in a minute. So we open our bracket, and we're going to click that cell, and then we'll do a plus, and that cell, and then a plus, and that cell, and those are all the ones that we want to add up. So we now close our bracket, and then we do a minus, which is the key next to the 0, and we click the cell we want to minus, which is that one, and then press enter, and we've got our total. Let's just have a look at that again by clicking on this cell. So we did D6, E6 and F6 in brackets, and what we've told the formula bar to do is add those three things first, and then whatever the total is of those three things added, then take away H6. Sometimes you don't need a bracket, but it's always wise to put them in whenever you're doing multiple different things, because it just makes the function and the formula a bit easier to understand, so we know it's going to add all of those and then minus that one. Let's replicate that underneath, because we have another one here where we've got to add that, and we need to add that, and we need to take away that. So we're going to replicate what we've just done. Equals, open our bracket, we click on that cell, plus that cell, close our bracket, minus that cell, press enter, £177. We've got a nice simple one here, we've just got two things to add up, equals that, plus that, press enter, and then the final one, we don't have to do anything at all, we can just put our answer in. And because we'd already formatted that cell, it changed it to £90. So we've now very quickly filled in all of our totals. Underneath we're going to have a grand total, which is all of this added up. So when we added cells a few moments ago, we click the cell, then the plus key, then click the cell and the plus key, and so on and so on. There is a quick way of doing it. When you're adding multiple things and they're all in a row or in a column, so these are all together, or it could be reading across, but when they're all next to each other, there's a quick way of doing it. You do equals and type the word sum. If you do sum, you're telling it to add all the numbers in the cells that you are about to select. So equals sum, you do your bracket, and then you click and drag all the numbers, close your bracket, and there's our total. So we know that the total for all guests is £877.50, and our spreadsheet's very quickly we've formatted it, and it's now easy to read. We've filled in all the gaps, and we've got all our information that we need. If the hotel manager now says to you that they want to find out what the average spend is for people who eat at the restaurant, we've had 3 people who eat at that restaurant, so we need to work out what the average spend is. So let's create something down here for the manager, and we'll call this the average. This is otherwise known as mean. So average spend on food, let's call it that, and we're going to pop it in that cell. So to get an average, you add things up and divide by the number of things you've added. So we're going to add those 3 cells and divide by 3 because we've added 3 things. So let's do that. Equals, oops, press the plus, that's better, equals, and we're going to do our bracket, and we're going to add that cell, plus that cell, plus that cell, and then close our bracket, and then we're going to divide that by 3 because that's how you'd work your average, because we've added 3 things up, and that is the backslash, which is the question mark button, but without pressing shift. So that's just above your spacebar normally on your keyboard. So we've got F5 plus F6 plus F7 divided by 3, press enter, and the average spend is £52.33 and 3 recurring pence. We need to format that because there's no such thing as 0.333333 pence. So right click, format the cell. We want currency to 2 decimal places. So we've got that, 2 decimal places, pound sign, great. So the average spend on food, £52.33. We could apply that average to anything we have here. So if we wanted to work out the average accommodation cost, pop it in that cell as well. We're going to add all of those up, and we're adding 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different items, so we're going to be dividing it by 6. So let's work on this one. So we need to do an equals. We're adding multiple things, so we're doing the sum of all of this, close our brackets, divide by, and we said there were 6 things in total. £120 is the average spend. So now we can give this information to our manager, who can quickly pick that up. We've looked at doing multiplication, which was information in these cells. We've looked at doing addition of basic cells. We've looked at addition of multiple cells. We've also looked at how you can add and divide together, add and minus together. We've got grand totals. So you can see how we've got some fairly basic functions of add, subtract, divide and multiply to very quickly fill in spreadsheets. You can imagine if this was magnified on a much bigger scale, using these kind of functions will allow you to fill in your spreadsheets much more quickly than manually pulling out your calculator and doing it. And it also removes a certain amount of human error, so you can get more accurate answers. Whenever you create a spreadsheet, you're going to often format it. So when we were doing our additions, we were adding these cells to get our total, those ones there. So I'm just going to give that a bit of colour. And then we had our total, which I'm just going to put in that colour. Doesn't really matter what you pick, as long as it makes it clear and easy to read, so we can kind of see what the expenses were, what the total was. And you could play with your formatting as much as you want. Once you've finished with your spreadsheet, you need to save it. And the key thing is to save it with a meaningful file name. This is automatically called Book 1 because we opened up a new Excel spreadsheet, and that's what it will call anything that's new. When you click on File and Save As, it will give you places where you can save. You can save to your computer or any kind of cloud drives that you may have. And over at this side, because computer's highlighted, it's saying the recent places where we've had things before. So if you previously saved things in there, you can quickly go to it. But let's double click on computer, and it gives us all the places where we can save. And I want to pop this one on the desktop, and I want to put it in the standards box. So double click on there. We need to give this a name that people will be able to find very quickly. So let's call this hotel costs, and we're going to call this Feb 2015. So we know that these are the hotel costs for this particular month. And then if you're doing this every month, you'd label them as March 2015 and so on. And then if someone wanted to pick a specific month, they could very quickly find that spreadsheet. So your meaningful file name needs to mean something to anyone looking for it, and hopefully people will be able to find that. Alternatively, you could have called that guest billing information February 2015, or anything else that will allow someone to identify it quickly. Today's session was to look at add single and multiple cells, minus and multiplication, division including average, and a quick bit of formatting on recap. Now we've had a look at those, I want you to practice those in your own spreadsheets and see how you can make them better and easier to use.